Hello, this is Ruby Falconer. Today's date is April 13th, 2020. This is an astrological take on current events from the perspective of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology. And the first thing that I want to do is acknowledge that the last 3 weeks have been very difficult, last 3 weeks to a month. And what's been going on from the astrological perspective is that the conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, it's actually Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, has been strongly highlighted. And in the last 2 weeks of April, we had Mars come in conjunction to all three of those, really kicking off what was the most volatile period of this time. It didn't end there because last week on April 4th, we had Jupiter and Pluto coming into alignment, and they're still in alignment. They're not exact anymore. They're pulling apart from one another. Jupiter is a little ahead of Pluto, but that's still very much in effect. So that's kind of the backdrop of where we are this week. And there has been some subtle shifts in energy. Last week we had Venus go into Gemini, which is an air sign. It's lighter, it's airier, there's more movement with Venus in Gemini, or a sense of movement. And we've also had Mercury go into Aries. Mercury in Aries can be very combative. It can be argumentative. It is also a position that brings forth a lot of new ideas and new ways of seeing things, which is good. There can be a lot of solutions being put forth. The only problem that can come up with it is sometimes Mercury in Aries can feel like there's kind of butting heads. Aries is the sign of the ram in traditional astrology, and so you have that kind of butting heads kind of energy. And now Mercury is not going to stay in Aries for a great deal of time. It's going to leave on April 27th, so it's a pretty brief sojourn through that sign. But during that time, we can expect that there's going to be a certain amount of combativeness taking place in public discourse, and you might find some of that spilling over into your own life. So best to be aware of that. Around the time that Mercury does leave Aries and moves into Taurus on April 25th actually, we're going to have Pluto changing direction. So we are going to start to move into a period of time when, from our perspective here on Earth, it's going to appear that Pluto is slowing down. And in that process of slowing down, its energy is amplified. And to remind you, Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. Pluto in Roman mythology was the lord of the underworld. In Greek, his name is Hades. And it's that place where souls go, kind of that underworld place where in Greek and Roman mythology, they never get out. So it's kind of a depressing concept, a depressing idea around death. And so it has that energy of endings with very few beginnings. In the Egyptian pantheon, Pluto is aligned with Osiris, who is the Lord of regeneration. And inherent in his myth is the idea that out of every death comes a birth, and that there's a cycle of death and rebirth. So this energy of death and rebirth is very strong right now. We're still in the dying phase, but we have those glimpses of new life, which is definitely represented by Venus in Gemini. Venus will remain in Gemini off and on. It's going to retrograde back. It's going to be in the sign Gemini until August 7th. So it is going to be retrograde for a part of that period, but there's going to be strong Gemini energy, which is a lot of movement and appreciation of new ideas. So we're kind of coming to this place right now where we're in an adaptation phase. And I've been saying this for a while. Around mid-April, we're going to get to this place where we're kind of accepting that things have changed. We're not going back to our old normal. There's a part of us that would very much just like to resume life as it was. But it's going to become progressively more apparent as we move through the next couple of months that that's just not going to happen. It's just not in the cards. So where we're at right now is we are at the beginning phases of adaptation. And so specifically what happens this week, we have Mercury, the planet of communication, Thoth in the Egyptian pantheon, who is in this first sign of the zodiac, Aries. Aries in the Egyptian pantheon is Kepra, who is the morning sun. So every day is a new beginning with this energy. So we have that energy coming in. And its first thing it's going to do is come into an alignment with Chiron, the wounded healer. So hopefully what we're going to do around that, and that takes place tomorrow. Let me just double check that. Yeah. Tomorrow, it depends on whether you're in the East Coast or the West Coast. Late tomorrow night on the East Coast, excuse me, on the West Coast, early Wednesday the 15th here on the East Coast. So we're going to have that opportunity to kind of maybe see the ways in which a lot of arguing about things isn't really productive. And that what we need to do is maybe listen to new ideas, take them into consideration. Part of that is that the sun, which is also in Aries, is going to move into a challenging relationship. We astrologers call it a square to first Pluto and then Jupiter. That's going to take place tomorrow and also Wednesday. So probably events are going to conspire to make us aware this energy is not going away, that we do need new ideas, that being upset and arguing about it isn't going to give us the solutions that we want. So this is the best way we can kind of take this home, is to sort of say, okay, deep breath. This is where we are. We would so love all of this to end and just go back to life as it was pre-COVID-19, but it's clearly not going to happen. And yes, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We can see that, but the only way we're going to get there is by opening up and embracing new ideas. And that's going to be a lot of what this week is about, is an adaptation process. And we're very much at the beginning of it. As we move toward the end of the week, we're going to have more of the energy of Mercury and Venus come in. So hopefully we can kind of allow that energy to come in a healthy way. They come into positive relationship with each other. And so and they also come into positive relationship with Mars. So there's some room for some creativity as we move through the week, both on a personal level, in that it's time to start coming up with some longer term solutions. And it's like we need a plan. And you hear this in the media, being like, what is it going to look like as we start to resume some kind of semblance of normal life? We open up the economy, we get people back to work. What is that going to look like? And there's going to be a reminder this week that it's not going to happen that quickly. Probably between tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're going to have to kind of say, oh, as much as we'd like to move full tilt ahead and open everything up, we just can't do that. It's not going to be possible. So it's kind of tempering the reality of the situation with energies coming in around new ideas and new ways of doing things, and really embracing the creativity of that while being in acknowledgement and acceptance of what is. It's a balancing point that we're at during this time. As we move into next week, and I'll talk more about this next Monday, we're going to have Pluto, Osiris, the Lord of regeneration, God of death and rebirth, Lord of the underworld. He's going to be stationary and changing direction on the 25th. And anytime a planet is stationary, we really feel the intensity of that energy. And so that energy is going to be very strong as Pluto sort of slows down. And it's also a marker, because Pluto will be the first of the three planets that are part of the Great Shift, which is Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, the first of them that turn retrograde. And these planets turning retrograde does suggest that there's going to be a kind of a turning back of some of this energy, as sort of it's time to sort of, the intensity of the situation will back off a bit. And so we have a sort of a norming and adaptation process take place. And when a planet is stationary, it's very strong. So we're in this sort of in-between place of like, yes, we can see that there is going to be some change ahead, and it's not here yet. So that's just the reality of where we are. And there's can be some frustration and short tempers around that, of feeling like, oh, I want to move through this. I want to get to that light at the end of the tunnel, and oh, I can't yet. So, everybody tends to take this very personally. We understand we're in a collective process, but we'll also have our own personal reactions to it. So, that's where we are right now. So I did want to give everyone an opportunity to go on a little journey with the Egyptian archetypes as we use them in the modality of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology. And so today, because Mercury is pretty strong this week, moving through this conjunction alignment with Chiron, the wounded healer, which gives us a chance to kind of back off of our expression and sort of see where, either our expression in some way is wounded, our communication processes, or where we might be creating wounds by the way we use our communication processes. And that enthusiasm of new ideas, which can sometimes kind of be in balance. My idea is the best and yours sucks. Whatever version of that we tend to subscribe to. Having difficulty listening to other people because we have so much excitement around what we think and what we believe needs to have happen. All of those energies can really be up and make communication combative rather than cooperative. So because of that, I wanted to offer an opportunity to journey a bit with the Egyptian archetype that is aligned with Mercury. And Mercury is his Roman name. His Greek name was Hermes. And Mercury in those myths is the messenger of the gods. And so he's the guy who's always shown with wings on his toes and on his feet, on his heels, and having a helmet with wings, and he could soar through the air like that. So he could just kind of be one place to another in an instant of an eye. And his job was to carry communications, particularly from Zeus or Jupiter to other gods and goddesses. And he was the trickster, so he would always show up and kind of muddy the waters a little bit, using words to create dissension. That was kind of fun for him. So that was his role in Greek and Roman mythology. And in the Egyptian pantheon, his kind of great grandfather is Thoth. And Thoth is the sacred scribe. He is one of the most ancient of all of the gods or goddesses in the world, but one of the most ancient archetypes of Egypt. And as the sacred scribe, he was the one who invented the hieroglyphs. So he invented the written language. And he also was said to invent time. And that combination of language and time, that's what creates our reality. And so he has that very powerful, he's not a creator God per se, but by contributing these elements to a creation that was already in existence, he creates the mental construct of reality that we all carry. He creates consensus reality, and he creates our specific consensus perspective, how we perceive reality. When we talk about this phrase that frequently comes up of we create our own reality, we do that with the words that we think, the words that we speak, and the thoughts that we think. That's what creates our personal realities, our personal experience of reality. And it's also collectively what creates the consensus reality as we all experience it. It's what is behind collective values and our collective choices around reality. So he's very important in that way, in that that is the way in which he is a creator God. And so I wanted to invite everyone to go on a little journey with Thoth, because it's time for all of us to be looking at the personal reality that we want to create for ourselves as we move forward. We're in this place where we know something's going to be different. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. So we get to have our input. It's time for us to be envisioning the world that we want to live in, both on our own. How do we want to do work? How do we want to do family? How do we want to do fun? How do we want to do all of these things for ourselves, as well as the kind of world that we want to live in? What do we want our society to look like? What do we want our planet to look like? This is the time to start envisioning that, because our new world is going to be built in the months ahead, and we all get to in some way contribute to that. So this is an idea time, based on an exploration of values. That's Venus, that's Isis, that's Gemini, as well as a thought process, really kind of thinking about what we want and what we want to create. So I want to invite everyone to take a couple of nice deep breaths. And another. And allow yourself to release any tension, any distractions, to take a moment to come completely present. And breathing in to that sense of presence within yourself. Feeling that connection with the earth beneath you, dropping a grounding cord into the core of earth. And I want you to imagine that you are standing in front of a temple. And this temple can look any way your mind creates it. It might be a marble temple, like the temples that we would see or imagine in Greece and Rome. It might be a temple in nature, a place that for you is a sacred place. It might be a church or a synagogue, a sacred space. It might be a temple in ancient Egypt or a temple in Sumeria or Jordan or any of the innumerable places in the world where there are sacred buildings that are created. Machu Picchu, whatever it is. This is your vision. Create your temple. And I invite you, when you are ready, to walk into the temple. There is an entryway. And there is a place within this temple that is the place of the scribe. It is the place where the priest scribe does his work. And the priest scribe that you are going to visit is Thoth. Now, Thoth was often shown as the body of a man with the head of an ibis, a water bird from the Nile. Or he could just be shown as an ibis, or he could be shown as a man, frequently an older man, a wise man. So however he shows up for you is right. But I do invite you to go to what could be considered to be his office here in the temple. The office or the room of the scribe. And you will find those in there at his work. You know, he may be looking at books, or he may be writing something, or he may be meditating. However he is, however he welcomes you, this is right and appropriate. But as you enter, he looks up and he sees you, and he's happy to see you. He's been waiting for you. And he has something that he wants to show you. It is something that he has written about you that speaks to your reason for being here, your reason for being alive right now at this time during the time of coronavirus. You have a specific role to play. And there is a role for you in the future. And the book, the piece of paper, the scroll, the papyrus, whatever it is, it might be a picture, whatever it is that Thoth finds that is yours. This is about your role. This is about what you're here to do. You don't have to do anything else than just your part. This is about your part. That he's happy you're here, because now is the time to begin to envision your role as we create our new consensus reality. You have a role. You have a part in that. And so check in with him. Ask him if it's okay to approach. He has something he wants to show you. Perhaps he hands it to you. Perhaps he invites you to look on a desk, or he holds something up for you. Whatever way it happens, he wants you to see it. And so when you receive permission, step forward and look at what it is he is showing you. Now, it may show up in words. It may be written in a language you understand. It may show up as symbols, hieroglyphs, pictures. It may be something that elicits in you a memory or a vision or an understanding. It can come in all kinds of ways, but allow yourself to look at the document in whatever form it comes that Thoth is offering to you. And remember to breathe, because as you breathe, you're going to inhale this information. You're going to ground it in your body. And so I am going to be quiet here for a bit of time to allow you to receive this transmission, this information from Thoth, the Sacred Scribe. Remember to breathe. And in some way, Thoth now gives this information to you, whether it's giving you the scroll or the piece of paper, or perhaps a symbol of what it is that has been written, or an image or a color, a memory, a word, a sentence, whatever it is. Allow yourself to receive it. And wherever you are, wherever you're sitting, if you're able, you might literally put your hands out so you receive it in your hands. And then draw it to you and put it in your heart. So it's in your energy field. This is your vision. It's yours, your part, your role to play in the building of a new world, the building of a new reality. Really breathe that in. Anchor it in your body. And anchor it even lower. Drop it down into the earth, rooting it in the earth. This connection to why you are here, why you came to planet Earth precisely this time, to be here now. And taking a nice deep breath, giving thanks to Thoth. In your mind's eye, I invite you to stand up and leave his office, leave the scribe's room, and he would return to his work and come back out into the temple and find yourself a place to sit down. A place where you can sit either in a chair, on the floor, on a ledge of some sort. Just closing your eyes, your mind's eyes, being in this space, breathing in the holy, sacred space of this temple. And coming to you now is Isis, the Queen Mother of Heaven. She who sees us through all of our deaths and rebirths, never leaves us alone. We are never abandoned. She is the mother who is always with us. She comes now and wraps her rainbow wings around you. And just rest for a moment. Rest in the loving arms of Isis. Feel how you are held. This is difficult for many of us. We need soothing. We need nurturing. We need to feel that we are held as we move through these times. So relaxing back into her arms, letting her work her magic as she wraps her beautiful rainbow wings around you. Just rest. I'll be quiet for a moment and just let you enjoy this. And giving thanks to Isis for her presence, for her kindness, her compassion. Take a nice deep breath and come back into the room. So I invite all of us to hold curiosity as we move forward in this week, compassion for ourselves and others, and to begin focusing our vision forward. What are we building? What do we want to build? What do we want to bring to our life, bring to the life of those we love? Let's start visioning the world that we want to create. Let's let our minds run wild. What can we build? Both for ourselves, for those we love, but also collectively for our beautiful blue-green planet. After death comes birth. We can see the glimmer of it far, far ahead, but it's coming. We are moving toward it. So let's do this with consciousness, with awareness. What do we want to build? So thank you for joining me. And I want to remind everyone that every day at 5 p.m. something is posted on the Venus Rising Association Facebook page and also Star Wolf's Facebook page. And every Wednesday, 5 p.m., there is a shamanic breath work that is led by either Star Wolf or Nico. And you can access it on the Venus Rising page and Star Wolf's page. So please do join in for that. And I will talk to you again. So thank you for being here, and blessings to you all.